Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Anna, aka Brook Willow, and today is a cozy rainy Sunday here in western Wisconsin, so I thought it would be a perfect day to sit down and catch you up on everything I've been working on this past month. Like I mentioned, it's been a whole month since we last sat down to talk, and that naturally means that I have a lot of things to show you that I've been working on. I've definitely had quite a bit of knitting mojo this past month. I've been knitting a ton, and so that'll take up most of the portion of this episode, but I also have some spinning and sewing items to show you as well. Before we begin, I will talk about what I'm wearing. This is kind of an oldie but a goodie. This is the Favo sweater by Fiber Tales, and I'll kind of get up a little bit to show you all the cable knit on it. This is definitely what drew me to make this particular sweater. It's like a super boxy, cropped, oversized knit, featuring obviously this cable knit, and then also a honeycomb brioche on these side panels and in the sleeves, which was a little hard for me at the time, but I really do like the overall effect. The coolest thing about this sweater, I think, is the yarn that I used. I actually unraveled a sweater that I thrifted. It was like a men's extra large sweater, so it gave me plenty of yarn to knit up this beautiful garment, and it's made out of 100% lamb's wool as well. The unraveling portion was a really fun experiment, not something I've done since, but definitely something I would do again in the future if I come across the right garment. I feel like so many knits at the thrift store tend to be like super fine gauge, and it just wouldn't really be worth unraveling for me, but if I come across something that works out, I would definitely do that again. And I also would for sure knit this sweater again, and actually I have plans to a little down the road. I ended up getting a bunch of fiber from Onair O'Gare on their latest update, and yeah, my goal right now is to spin to remake this sweater, but the plans can change, and I don't think I'm going to get around to that anytime soon. I guess we can just jump right into the official knitting portion of the video. I have two finished objects to show you today, and I'll start with the first one, which is the most recent in our memories. I talked about this a lot in my last episode, and it is this right here. This is the Jadwiga sweater by Albina McLaughlin. I recently have been so in love with her patterns, and this is my second one of her sweaters that I knit just this year. This is an all-over colorwork sweater. It's worked in the round, top down, so it's most people's dream way to make a sweater, and it really was nice for me as well. And I really like how the colorwork just extends all the way through the arms and all the way to the bottom of the sweater. It also means that the sweater is twice as thick, since I used twice as much yarn going all the way down, so it makes for a very cozy, warm garment. The yarn that I used for this is in collaboration with Blue Sky Fiber, so I'm a Blue Sky maker for 2024, and that means that they sent me 2 projects worth of yarn support that I get to make throughout this year, and this was the second garment that I made for that. And it is the extra yarn in Lake Ice in Deep Ocean Blue. Lake Ice, as you can imagine, is like the soft gray, and then the Deep Ocean Blue is the dark blue. And I really love the way these two yarns paired together. I really wanted to make sure that I used yarns that had high contrast, because I just loved the colorwork motifs in this, and I really wanted it to be visible to myself and everybody else who could see it as well. I knit a size 2 in this sweater. It comes 4 sizes total, which ranges a bust circumference of 42 inches to 63.5 inches. If you watched my last episode, you would know that I had some issues with my short row shaping at the top. The whole thing got off-centered and I didn't notice it until I split for sleeves. And at that point, I had done so much knitting that I didn't want to rip back and fix it. So I ended up finishing the whole sweater, and my plan was to do a duplicate stitch on the side to just fill up the blue gap that it caused right here. However, I knew in the back of my head that really wasn't like the way that I should properly fix it. And with the encouragement of a few of you viewers, I did decide to do some sweater surgery. And it was the first time I did proper sweater surgery. And basically the way that I did that is I inserted a lifeline throughout the garment at a place where I felt comfortable kind of knitting backwards, which ended up being right at the top of the color work here. And I essentially, put the lifeline in, cut off the top, pulled out all the fiddly bits and put it back on needles, and it was not as scary as I thought it was going to be. And then I just reverse engineered the short rows, and I did end up re-knitting the collar instead of trying to deal with joining the two back together. The second time I knit the collar, it ended up being super loose and causing like a really wide neckline. So I ended up inserting a little bit of elastic in the collar here, and it fits super nice around my neck now. And I'm really happy that I did do the surgery, more than just because now that it's all fixed and that looks lovely, but I went into it thinking like this is a new way that I can learn a new skill set, especially in knitting. I feel like I've done almost every technique there is out there. I'm sure I'm missing quite a few, but like I think I've got most of them down, and it was just kind of exciting to add one more new thing to like my knitting resume. So yeah, I'm very pleased with how this turned out. I've already worn it a ton. We've still been having some cold days. Yesterday I went to a beer cave fest and it was like in the high 50s, and I just wore this and it was absolutely perfect for the occasion. My next finished object is one that you may have completely forgotten about. I know I almost have as well, and that's because I started them back in November, and they are the Totally Tessellated Socks by Andrea Mowry. So here's the second pair as well. I cast these on for her challenge that she does over Thanksgiving weekend here in the US. And basically we cast on Wednesday and we try to have an entire pair of socks finished by Monday at noon, I believe, the following Monday. And it's safe to say that I failed that one miserably. I think I had only gotten like this far in the sock when I did it. Part of the reason was I had just finished the tessellated pullover and I was a little burnt out on this stitch pattern. And also it's just a very slow moving process as well. If any of you have knit anything tessellated, you know that it's a very slow knit, and that's because it uses mosaic color work, which really condenses the stitch length down, which means you have to knit pretty much twice as much as you would for a normal pair of socks. But I finally just decided to focus heavily on these, and I was able to finish them up about 2 weeks ago, and it feels fantastic. I now don't have any sock projects on the needles, which means I can finally start a new sock project in the near future here. I'm gonna hold off a little bit, but I don't know, maybe next week I'll end up casting something on. Anyways, I loved knitting up this pattern. It is knit top down with an afterthought heel and just a regular toe. I can't really remember all of the yarn. I think the black yarn that I used is Malabrigo, perhaps, or Madeline Tosh. It might be Madeline Tosh. And then the color changing yarn was actually yarn that a viewer sent me so kindly, and I can't remember the name of that, but I do know that the fuzzy tan yarn is Broom from Pearl Soho. And I really love these socks. The colors are very moody because I intended to have them finished in the fall. This isn't really like a color that I knit up much in the springtime, but I actually have worn them already because they've worked with a couple of my outfits. I do want to knit another pair of these in lighter colors. I still have quite a bit of the tan Broom from Pearl Soho left over, so I was thinking about reusing that as like the hairy yarn that's called for, and then doing lighter colors like sky blue and maybe like a grayish color or something, just to, you know, have something a little opposite of these. So again, I probably won't start that anytime soon because I want to try out some other sock patterns as well, but it feels really good to finally have another pair of socks off the needles. Before I get into all of my current whips, I should mention that I did end up frogging the Forest Keys vest by Teti Lutzak. I talked about that one, I think, quite extensively in my last episode, and I was so excited for it. However, I just ended up running out of yarn like quite a bit before I was even close to finishing it. I ran out of yarn basically right where the V-neck of the vest stops. I thought I would pivot with that and then color block with another color beneath it, and then I knit that up and ran out of that yarn, and it ended up just becoming a whole mess, and I kind of fell out of love with it. It just wasn't what I was originally picturing in my head, so I made the decision to frog it, which, you know, always hurts, but it's okay, it happens. Now I know exactly how much yarn I can knit up with what I originally had with it, and I can safely say I need to make a smaller project with it. But because of that, I have since cast on 2 new projects because I was a little sad about that, and I will show you the first one that I'm making. It is a test knit, actually. So this test knit is a shawl by Kelsey Steven Designs, who is the dyer behind Primrose Yarn Co., and it is the Mockingbird shawl, and here is how far I am with it right now. I have really been in the mood to make another shawl because I only have 2 and I wear those all the time, like way more than I ever thought I actually would wear them. And so yeah, of course I'm going to make another shawl. And I really was in the mood to make a brioche type shawl with hand spun yarn. So when I saw that this test knit was available, I was so excited to sign up for it because look how beautiful that is. It basically is 1/2 brioche and 1/2 garter stitch, and then it swaps as you kind of get more into the shawl. And yeah, it's been so much fun to knit. I think especially because with half of it being one type of stitch and then the other half being another type of stitch, I don't ever get bored with it. I can't really do big stockinette projects because I just get so bored, and I need fun things like this that kind of switch it up for me. One cool thing about it is it's completely reversible too, so the back side looks almost as finished as the first side. The front side has this long stitch going up the middle separating the 2 patterns, and the back side doesn't have that, but it does still look pretty finished. And if I'm in the mood to have more pink in the brioche, then I can wear it on that side. And if I'm in the mood for the more moody green, then I can wear it on that side. So yeah, this is how far I am. The test is due in June. She allowed for some extra time for those who wanted to spin the yarn, which is what I did for half of the yarn, and I'll get into that in a minute. Yeah, so there's a lot of nice time to knit on this where I don't feel too stressed out, but I do have to keep going so I don't ever get behind on it. Speaking of the yarn, the main color I'm using is this pink color right here, which I thought was a really nice shade of pink. I don't knit a ton of pink, and it's certainly something that I would like to have more in my wardrobe. And this is from Primrose Yarn Co. So I decided to use the same yarn and fiber that's called for originally in the pattern, just because I had no reason not to. And I've been wanting to try Primrose Yarn Co. because I think the yarn is just so gorgeous. This is the Replace Sport, which is 100% upcycled wool blend, locally milled and dyed in York, Pennsylvania. So it is a mill spun yarn, which I think just makes some of the most beautiful yarns. And yeah, the color is really pretty. There is quite a bit of blue specks in it, which gives the yarn a lot of dimension. I should mention the color is pale pink as well. The fiber that I spun to make this cake of yarn here is gray Corriedale in the colorway Crystallize, and I do still have a braid right here of it. So it comes in 4 ounces of fiber. This was so lovely to spin with. It drafts beautifully and the colors just blend together so nice. And I just really thought that these two would look super well together, and I was right because I like how it turned out in the shawl. I am spinning this up to be a 2-ply sport weight, and I'm doing it on my wheel. I know I've been really into the spindles lately, but I need to give my wheel some love, and since this has more of a deadline, I wanted to get it spun up a little bit faster. And so the pattern calls for 3 of these braids and then 2 skeins of this. I spun up 1 braid so far, and I'm going to start spinning up a second one pretty soon here. That's like all I really have to say about this particular knit. Other than that, I am enjoying myself and I'm really excited to have the finished product. My next whip is one that I started a few days ago, and it is one that I've been thinking about for a very long time and also talking about for a very long time. I put out a video last fall where I looked at garments that I thought were really cool in some of my favorite online boutiques, and I paired them with patterns that were very similar so I could make my own version of them. And one of them is the Maras by Revive. And I just, ever since I saw that pattern, it's been in my mind this whole time. And yeah, so I knew I really wanted to knit it, and I have been staring at the yarn for quite some time because it is yarn that I've had in my bookshelf for a very long time. Here is the yarn that I used. This is some non-superwash DK weight yarn that I actually dyed myself naturally. A year ago I did some experimenting dyeing up a bunch of different colorways using different pigments that I got from Maywa, which is a company in Canada that has a ton of different natural dyes, and they do a really good job with giving you free PDFs of exactly how to dye yarn, which is super cool. So I dyed this yarn using Eupatorium, which gives, you know, this beautiful yellow, and I'm really pleased with how long the color fastness has been. So basically color fastness is how long the dye will stay in the yarn or fabric or whatever. A lot of times dye will fade over time, and this has been a year now, so I think it's safe to say that this color is going to be sticking around. And I think, yeah, it's just a really nice shade of yellow. It reminds me of the Lanark yellow sweater that I knit last year, and that's a color that I love wearing, so it was no doubt that I wanted to knit with this color again. And so I'll show you how far I am with it. I'm really not too far. So I am completely done with the bottom hem. By the way, this is a bottom up cardigan knit flat. So there's the hem, and then I have, that's actually the back side. I've just begun the waffle knit, textured knit above it, which is a super easy stitch pattern to follow. It's like a 4-row repeat, which is very easy to memorize. I really like the hem on this. I think it's a very unique hem. We often see the bottom hems being some iteration of a rib, and this one is knit just stockinette, and it's a double hem, so it doesn't curl up or anything like that, and you just kind of knit the two pieces together at the bottom here. And I feel like it just gives a super clean, crisp look at the bottom. I'm having so much fun with this one. I really love the way that the color is knitting up and the stitch pattern is knitting up. I think it's a very unique pattern. We don't often see waffle knit in knit garments. It's usually in like woven fabrics. And so, yeah, I was excited to try something new. So stay tuned. I think this will start knitting up pretty fast here because I guess it's only on US 6 needles, but yeah, I don't know. Those are my 2 active whips. However, I did swatch for the Traveler pullover by Andrea Mari. I had a little Zoom hangout chat last weekend with Marlene from Marlene Knits and Casey from Young Folk Knits. And we're all making a version of the Traveler. So Marlene's making the shawl and Casey is making the pullover as well. And we were meeting to just hang out, talk about knitting, and cast on for our projects. I wasn't ready myself to cast on for the full sweater, but I was able to knit up a swatch, and I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. So I'll go ahead and show you it here. There we go. So I did swatch in the round. I didn't cut the threads quite yet because I just want this as a backup in case I run out of yarn. That seems to be the case for me a lot lately. Here is where we're at with the swatch. I think it turned out really nice. I haven't even tested yet to see if I'm on gauge yet or not. I more or less just wanted to see how the fabric worked up in my hand spun. And so here is a cake of the hand spun. You can kind of get an idea of what the colors will be. It's a lot of blues, but then it goes into these kind of burnt orangey colors as well. And I think it'll make a really cool, naturally striped sweater, which is exactly what I was going for. I don't know if I'm going to make the hoodie version or just the crew neck version. I still have to spin up all of the yarn, and so once I have that all spun up, I'm gonna see how much I have. If I have enough to make the hoodie, I'll make the hoodie. If I don't have enough, then I'm just gonna do the crew neck. I originally bought what I think is enough fiber to make the hoodie. It's still kind of hard for me, at least, to really accurately know if I'm buying the right amount of fiber for a project, especially because my spinning still can be a little bit inconsistent. And I guess I could probably order more fiber if needed, but then the dye lots would be different and it'd be a whole thing. So I'd be perfectly fine with just making the crew neck version of this if I don't have enough for the hood. But yeah, this will be a little bit down the road. I'm definitely gonna finish either the shawl or the cardigan first before I cast on for this, but it would be nice to have this done and ready to wear in the fall as well. I don't have like a ton of spinning to show today, especially because I already talked about most of it here, but I did get something new and exciting in the mail. After I posted my last episode, Bridget from BZB Knits reached out to me on Instagram and said, I noticed you were wanting some hand carders and I have a pair that I'm willing to part with. So I bought them off of her and she sent them over and I have them right here. Oh, they're so beautiful, and I love the shade of wood that they're into, this mahogany. These are from Kromsky. I've been wanting some carders to just start playing around with different types of fiber prep, and more specifically making my own Rolags. When I've been spinning up fiber for my supported spindles, I have just been ripping off a chunk and spinning from the fold, which has been working nice, but I have seen a lot of Rolags on Instagram and they just look really pretty and nice to work with. So of course I want to try different ways to spin up with different fiber prep methods. And that's exactly what I did with it. I made a bunch of Rolags. By the way, this braid that I just showed you is from Lavender Loom's latest fiber subscription. This is March's, and I am just in love with these colors here. And I prepared a bunch of Rolags for it. So here is quite a few that I have prepared. The really nice thing about preparing the braid into Rolags is because you can see here there's quite a bit of contrasty bits of color. So it's like this bright yellow right next to this white, and sometimes when spinning it up, if these two fibers kind of draft out together, it creates a candy cane or barber look, and that can be nice and fun, but sometimes I want those colors to blend a little bit more so they transition throughout the fiber overall, and that's exactly what these Rolags do. They just blend it together, and so there's just a more natural flow between the color transitions of the Rolag. And yeah, I have been having a ton of fun preparing these. I think it's just as much fun to prepare Rolags as it is to spin with them. So I'm really excited to have these. I would love to one day buy a fleece and scour it myself and prepare it myself with the hand carders. I'm not like quite there yet. I know that the Minnesota Sheep and Wool Festival is coming up and I'm planning to attend that. So who knows, I could very spontaneously buy a fleece. I don't really have plans to, but you never know what'll happen when you're at a fiber festival. So one day it'll be nice to do that with these, but in the meantime, I'm having so much fun making my own Rolags with them. So yes, I have been spinning these up on my supported spindle. Here is one that I have from the Spindle Shop. This is one of my favorites to spin with. It just spins lovely. And I finally got proper storage for my spindles. This basket here I use for whatever current spinning project I'm working on. So I have my spindle, the bowl that I use, and all of the prepared Rolags in here. And then for the rest of my spindles, I have another little basket that I have just been laying them all down like that. I learned that you really shouldn't like put them in a basket or stand them on a stand where they're touching the bottom because it can warp the shaft here. It's okay to have the stands that suspend them and this part here isn't touching anything. Or another great way is just to lay them on their side in a protected space. So that's why I got this basket, and I think it works out very well for storing my spindles and keeping them safe. I am actually currently wearing my finished sewing object. I finally made the Archer work pants by Matchy Matchy Sewing Club, which was so easy to sew. I've made quite a few different pairs of pants so far, and these are probably one of the easiest. I think the main reason being that the pockets are just like patch pockets on the outside and not the interior side pocket. It's a nice way to sew a pocket, but these are just a little bit easier. I sewed these up using some linen fabric that a lovely viewer sent to me in this brown colorway. And yeah, I absolutely love them. I sewed these up in a size 14, which I do actually think I can go down a size, and I have plans and fabric to make 2 more versions of these. I'll show you the fabric in a little bit. But yeah, I think I can go down a size. These are still nice. They're just maybe a little too baggy. I don't know. I know they're gonna be super nice to lounge around in the summertime. They're super easy breezy, being that they're made out of linen. I feel like a lot of sewing patterns out there don't have a gusset option on the inside, and it just gives you kind of more room to move around in the pants, which is always a good thing. So like I said, I have fabric to make 2 more versions of these pants, and I'll go ahead and show you them right now. I recently made a purchase from Blackbird Fabrics. I bought 3 different bunches of fabric. I don't know what you call that. The first one being this linen in this really nice green and lighter green pinstripe. I have a pair of flowy green pants made out of corduroy, and I love them so much. They work with so many things in my wardrobe, but they're just made out of heavier material, being that they're corduroy. And I wanted to make kind of a summer version of that, which is why I went with the pinstripe green in the linen. So again, I'm gonna use this to make a pair of Archer work pants. And then I have this fabric right here, which is this gingham fabric. It's kind of like a gray and like a pea green yellow-ish color. I thought they were really cozy, and they're made out of this gauzy material, which again would just be so cozy to lounge around in the summer and even in the winter. So yeah, I'm excited to make some more of these pants in the size large. I'm gonna try to size down and see how that fit works, if it's just like a little bit better for me. I did get one more thing of fabric from Blackbird, and it's another gauzy gingham in this blue and white. I just thought it was very springy and summery and nice. I plan on making a dress with this. I don't know exactly what dress I'm gonna make yet. I'm gonna look at different options out there. I have been loving all of the patterns coming out of Silver Saga patterns, and I think it'd be really fun to make one of those dresses, but I just have to make sure I ordered enough fabric. I got 2.5 meters of this, so it might be enough to make a dress, I think. But yeah, stay tuned. I do have plans for another project. I had recently bought the side tie top by Steph Time and got it all printed out and everything, and the patterns all cut out as well. And that is a really cool looking top using quilted fabric. You can also make it without using quilted fabric too. There's directions on how to do that. But years ago, back when I really first started garment sewing, like 3 years ago, maybe 4 I would say, I had started making a quilt top. I ordered just like one bundle of pre-cut squares online, and I was gonna make a baby quilt for a friend, but then I just got too far behind, and now that baby's like 2 or 3 years old at this point. And then I thought maybe I'll just make this larger version for myself, but I don't know, I kind of lost steam on it, but I still had quite a bit done, so I decided this would be a perfect opportunity to use that quilt top and make it into a garment instead of a blanket. And so I'll go ahead and show you the quilt top here. This is the Broken Dishes pattern on Purl Soho, which is a free pattern. It's super easy. This is like my first quilting job that I ever did. Don't look too closely because not all the triangles line up to each other, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. I really like how well balanced out all of these colors are. Again, I just used one pre-cut fabric from Kona, I believe, to make this, and I really like it. So I have enough fabric to use for just the front side of the top. I don't have enough for the back side. So on the back side, I actually plan on using the same linen fabric that I made the pants out of. I have quite a bit of this left, and it brings out some of the darker colors in this quilt top. So yeah, this will be the back of it. This will obviously be the front. And the other cool thing about this particular top is it's completely reversible. So that gave me a whole other fabric to search for to see what I would want to be when I flip it on the reverse. And I decided to use this green cotton fabric that I got from Joann Fabrics this weekend. Again, I think it complements the quilt top nicely and will be nice for the reverse side of it. So I think this is going to be the next thing that I actually sew up, and we will see how it goes. I've never quilted anything together before. I did get some batting from Joann Fabrics as well to quilt them all together, and I'll sew up a little top, and I think it'll be a good way to dip my toes into quilting as well. I recently got 2 books from Goodwill. They're from Better Home and Gardens, and it's just like traditional folk quilting, and there's so many awesome patterns in there. The books are from like 1987 and 1991, and they're just classic. And I started going down a deep dive of quilting. That's definitely something I want to do in my near future. I even made it a goal for myself this year to make my first quilt, so we'll see. But yeah, again, I just think this is a good way to kind of dip my toes into it. I know myself, and I know I'm probably going to end up deep diving down the road of quilting, but I'm just trying to take my time with it because I don't need to do absolutely everything at once. Like I mentioned in my last episode, the reason why I'm going down to 1 video a month is because my summers just tend to be super busy, and I don't want to get stressed out with like adding filming into the whole mix as well. And I sure have already been busy. I mentioned maybe last episode or the episode before that I joined my local birding club, and there's been a lot of cool volunteer opportunities with that. I'm actually going to be doing a bird count kind of research type project for the waterfowl protection areas, and I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be like kind of off the beaten track bushwhacking type research, which I just think is going to be really cool. And my best friend and I did a crane count where we woke up super early in the morning, and we had 3 different spots where we had to go to count the cranes, and we had to start at 5:30 in the morning, which doing that with a friend is a lot better than doing it by yourself. We counted no cranes, but that's okay because one of the spots that we went to was down on the St. Croix River, and we opened up our Merlin bird apps, and that thing was just going off the charts. There were like 30 different species of birds. It was like an amazing life experience. We were the only 2 people in this particular state park. Being down on the river, the water was glass, the sun was just coming up, and the birds were just going crazy. It was so cool, and something that we plan on going back and doing it again. We even saw a couple of otters too, no, it was beavers. It was really cool to see the beavers, and they were even like slapping their tail in the water, which was really awesome to see. And yeah, it was a really cool experience. And I'm starting to ride my bike again. I finally went on my first normal bike ride of this season last weekend, which was really nice and something that I desperately needed to get back into. Mountain biking starts this week once hunting is done. So that'll start May 1st, and I'll be doing a ton of mountain biking, and I'm getting outside, doing yard work, getting my porch all set up. I hope that you are having a lovely spring as well and are getting to do all of the springy stuff that you love to do for yourself. That's really all I have to talk about today. I think I'm just gonna get back to knitting for the rest of the day because, again, it's super rainy and kind of chilly, which is kind of nice for a Sunday. But yeah, we will chat in about a month's time, and I hope you have a good rest of your week.